This video covers everything in the story at the current time, including Lavatane's and Wolfguard's character quests, and a bit on what we can gather for the future story. First up, Chen Alter. My whole theory about Chen getting an altar comes from one specific voice line, where she states that her mother has a crimson sword that is a family heirloom from a heroine of Yan.
Mother has a crimson sword. She told me it was a family heirloom that a heroine of Yan gave to our ancestor.
Several other lore entries make it clear that this sword is Qi's Zhao, a legendary sword from the original Arknights that Chen's ancestor once wielded. However, her mother took the sword and disappeared with it, which comes to part of my theory that she will eventually find her mother, and through maybe a trial, or maybe even her mother dies, she inherits the sword, and that's where we get 6-star Chen Yu. But I don't expect this to happen anytime soon. However, this is reinforced by Chen character animation that was released before the game came out, the ending of which shows us Qi Zhao in the book Chen was browsing. Ember Altar. Ember, the Sancta with a big sword, is strange since normally Sancta use guns. Guns in this world act like arts units similar to the orbiters that Perlica and Gilberta use. Sancta firearms are unique, however, as they form a lifelong relationship with their guns that goes beyond just a simple weapon. Amber seems to prefer using swords, however in this voice line she does make mention of her guardian gun. She left it behind when she was injured in battle for some unknown reason, for while it is part of her, she believes that she will return one day, and because of this, she could possibly return to the Order of Steel Oath, retrieve her weapon, which could lead to an altar, though a low chance due to her preferring melee weapons. Endmin Origins. Next, let's talk about the Penguinistrator, or Endministrator. Nefarith speaks about them being the child of Originium. While I first theorized that this could mean that they were the first reconvener, this file states the first reconvener appeared when Endmin was around. So that means the Endmin being a reconvener is unlikely, which would mean that they aren't a clone of the Doctor from the original Arknights. However, my theory is that the Endmin is much more than that. Nefarith stating the child of Originium isn't just a comparison, it was literal. Let me explain. Originium is data or stored information, so the Endmin themselves could very possibly just be a created being by Originium. I mean, it would explain a little of why we have powers of Originium, right? Our mother, being Originium, basically gave us inherited powers. Endministrator's title. I want to talk a little about the characterization of the Endmin. We think they are always just glazed, but what if I told you it wasn't the character that is the Endmin? It's the title of Endministrator that is glazed. People only know the title, but not the face behind the title. I started to realize this after Lavatane's quest, where it shows the current Endmin is anxious, that they aren't living up to the title of Endministrator that everyone is hyping up. So when we see them go into conversations alone to help people with problems that they have, they don't bring up the title till the end of the quest. I can even give an example. During the quest, Base Revisited, the Endmin goes to help Director Chin with minor tests around the hub. One of the objectives was to help some engineers in the hub. Rather than saying, I'm the Endministrator, and finishing the jobs themselves, the Endmin says, I'm an engineer. And not a single person there, even the Endmin, speaks about the Endministrator. So they help out, and rather than doing the job themselves, they let the other engineers help and do what they can. Since the Endmin could easily fix the machines by themselves if they wanted to. But instead, they assist them, and only after everything is done do they ask who the Endmin is, and they tell them their name is the Endministrator.
My dear expert, but how should I address you? What? You're the... By Talos, I never realised that. No wonder.
Showing they now believe they deserve the title, and also only then do the engineers become shocked at who is helping them all this time. Fast forward to meeting Tong Tong and the others, to people who don't know anything about the title. And only after helping out and showing how good you are do they start cheering for Dark Mask, which may be why people love Wu Ling so much. People only start glazing after the fact. Endministrator is only a well-known title in Endfield, and rumors skew how people treat the current Endmen. Moving on to a mystery character that is not even files, I've looked, say the name of. Who could this mystery person be if not the Endmen? Lycia? No, we'll talk about her after though. My theory is that it could very well be M3. To those who don't know, there is a character named Calcit and Monster, yes, spelled like that, who are very old, talking about thousands of years here. And this Calcit was made by the same people who brought Originium to the planet Terra, the planet of the original Arknights. So what's to say that M3 isn't just a reconvener that chose the name M3 based on the name of Monster? Not to mention they look very similar in design. She has also been on the Endfield team for a long time, longer than Perlica, as she's Perlica's guardian, as shown in the manga Promise, made by the devs of Endfield. She's also very knowledgeable and strong too, as she is an elite operator and does solo missions of the highest difficulty, which Perlica tells us when we ask her about M3 after meeting M3 for the first time.
M3 is one of our elite operators. She is responsible for carrying out combat missions of the highest secrecy and utmost danger.
Let's move on to Lycia, who we meet before going to Ling and in the epilogue section of Valley 4's story. I know there's a lot of theories going around about her being a reconvener of Tallulah, another character from the original Arknights. However, thanks to the Promise manga, we see a young Lycia. This makes me think this is less of a case of her being a reconvener, and it's more likely that since she looks similar to Tallulah, she could be another descendant situation like Chen Chenyu. Everyone's favorite crocodile / Arcosauria. I have heard a lot about her from others saying how little she's achieved in the events of Valley 4, but honestly, I disagree, since she even accomplished her objective while she was there. Her objective was never to beat us, but to cause chaos in more than just one way. Remember the Landbreakers? Well, do people remember there's supposed to be more than just one or two Landbreaker clans? Well, things changed because the Bone Crusher absorbed many of the other clans to rise to power. We even get an example of people changing to the Bone Crusher's side in Wolfguard's character quest. I personally think that she sandbagged or concealed her true intentions to us. Why else would she just decide to walk away rather than just deal with Endfield at the end of the final battle in Valley 4? She had us weakened. We were clearly exhausted. Her objective was complete. The spreading of blight and getting the Bone Crushers to think her as their leader with the help of Denstacks and more. She basically can be considered to have a violent group of bandits or thugs as her personal army, which will likely be used against Qingbo Stockade to take it over, if they haven't already. We should give her more credit than we're giving her, in my opinion. The last thing I want to talk about is the future. Yes, let's talk about 1.1 and the possible story that might appear in the future. Now, I want to say I had these series before the 1.1 video that was uploaded not long ago by Endfield. The reason is because I found a file right here. This is the fight against the title class we had right before meeting Mifu and before Tong Tong blew up the wall with an oversized bundle of dynamite. This file mentions the Ancestral Spring, the place Tong Tong mentioned wanting to show us at the end of the current Wu Ling story, and something being wrong with it, as there must be if a title class is this far in your area. So I had thought we would be going to the spring next patch to fix the issue, but thanks to that same video, we know we are going there in 1.1. But if you think that's all I came up with, you'd be wrong. Artist here mentions that he agreed but did not accept.
He accepted, but he did not agree.
I believe this is to mean Ron Chi, Tong Tong's brother. I have some things helping this theory. First, at the end of the Wuling story, Mifu, Feng and Enman speak about where they would hit first, speaking about Ardashir and Nefarith, if I recall correctly. The answer was Qingbo Stockade, our 1.1 destination, which we can theorize they have already started to go after. We can assume this because Tong Tong mentions that people of the stockade are going off randomly, and Chen waves it off as them getting odd jobs. Well, I'm pretty sure they are joining Ardashir and Nefarith. Even Ron Chi was being recruited, but something kept him from fully joining them since, like I said earlier, he agreed but did not accept. The last thing is based more on the trailer we saw and will be a short theory compared to the others. Ron Chi does agree in the end or saves Tong Tong and ends up being turned into the boss in the spring. I have little evidence, but I also don't want to go too deep into it as 1.1 is just around the corner. However, that's it for every theory I have currently and some evidence for each. I hope you enjoyed and liked the video. On that note, if there's anything I missed or anything you agree or disagree with, let me know in the comments and let's see if any of my theories come true. See you next time.